Karin, Liltorp, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Thank you. When we had the discussion, well, the debate from the scientists, I couldn't help thinking about, we were clapping at your work, and of course you deserve applause. That's beyond doubt, but instead the correct action would actually to start crying. That was what I felt like. It is really depressing. I think the only one who said something optimistic of the scientists was Terje, who started talking about new ways of testing. So there's hope. And I hope we can also agree on that, even though it is kind of depressing what we have put ourselves through. But it is a great honor standing here before you today to talk about this very important matter. So I'm glad to have been invited. Every single day, millions of people are exposed to this threat. Invisible substances that interfere with the hormonal systems. And we have already heard that these threats are linked to reproducible disorders, developmental delays, neurological issues, certain cancers, and the increase that we actually see in ADHD and autism. It's kind of scary. And yet still we allow these chemicals to come into our homes, our bodies, our drinking water, everywhere we see them. Why is that? I guess one thing we can agree here is that the greatest danger to humanity is not a lack of creativity. It is our overconfidence. We invent brilliantly, but often too brilliantly without fully understanding the consequences. I cannot help about thinking about the times when someone had the brilliant idea to add lead to gasoline. It solved an engine problem, very good, and it gave us decades of environmental disaster, a global drop in IQ, and a pollution legacy that we're still cleaning up today. What we're going through today reminds me of that situation. So let's just say that not every innovation deserves a Nobel Prize. Unfortunately, the story of EDCs feel all too familiar. Useful innovations introduced without fully understanding the long-term impacts on human health and the environment. And now I give you a tip about how to, get this on top of the mind of politicians, because most of us are not scientists. So if you want politicians to listen, you have to make it very simple and you have to make it personal. When you keep talking about, chemicals receiving some receptors in the brain, we don't care. It's just like, well, I'm not sure I have these receptors at all. And of course we have, but you have to make it personal. And it's not because we're very stupid, but it's just a way of speaking. You have to, hit us on the feelings. And for me, this is not an academic discussion. I myself is a mother. I have a son with autism, and I cannot help but wonder, could these chemicals have played a role in his development? We simply do not know, and that thought has kept me awake at night. Also, I look at all my children and I think, will they ever be able to have children of their own? Maybe because of something I did. It's so scary. If this chemical legacy, will it rob them of the chance of being parents themselves? It's the way you have to speak to politicians, because everybody then cares. We really care. If our children are sick, if we don't get grandchildren, it affects everybody. So you have to use that tone and that, that way of speaking if you really want to make politicians take it seriously. So we now know the terrible price. Our children are paying the price with their intelligence. It was a really funny comment we have from before. We have to do something now because the next generation will be too stupid to do something about it. It's scary. Research show that nearly every Danish pregnant woman has measurable EDC levels in her blood affecting the unborn child. The consequences for the environment are also really disastrous, and still political actions are dangerously slow. Yes, the European Union, I think that's the clue to many of the, well, the problem solving, because we cannot hold this from Denmark alone. We're too small, but we can at least push. And we have taken the global lead with REACH and biocidal product regulation. So we are actually doing better than the rest of the world. I think that's for sure. But we must be honest, the rules are not strict enough. As an example, in the regulation, it is described that EDCs may be used if no suitable alternative exists. And that's what I call a rubber regulation, because what does it mean? And let me be clear, there are always safe alternatives. One of them is simply don't use them. And it's easy for me to say because I know we're very dependent on them. And if you come from the chemical industry, you'll not be well happy about what I'm saying now. But there is always a safe alternative. And if we know it's dangerous, we should ban them as fast as possible. The price we pay right now cannot be underestimated. With regard to the regulation, we're doing good in EU, but the rest of the world is lagging behind. And we also heard that before. China has just started regulating. That's good. I think we should appreciate that, but they're really behind EU. The United States lags even further behind, and I guess with Trump in front, we should not be too optimistic about the way forward from here. Well, you never know. But still, in Europe, we allow import of all these unregulated products containing EDCs from countries with little or no chemical safety control. We accept these goods in our market. That must simply be stopped. We must assure that the European Union takes the lead with a strong message to all. If it's not safe for our children, if it's not safe for the environment, it should not be allowed to enter the EU market. And I know we all agree about this, but it's difficult because we also have the consumers' right and we have this global world, so it's not as easy as it might seem. An important point that has already been mentioned before is that we cannot leave this up to the consumers. The only way forward is through regulation. We cannot depend on the single consumers to take action on this because it's just important. I myself have bought a lot of, well, really toxic stuff, I'm sure, during my life, because I also had the idea that if it was sold in a supermarket, I guess it's okay. I didn't really worry. And I guess most of you feel the same way. It's just, well, it's okay. But the price for doing nothing is extremely high, and we already heard that, economic. It has been estimated that the EDC-related diseases cost the European Union 160 billion euros every year. And the human cost is, of course, beyond calculation. So, what must we do? And it's up to us, the politicians. We must strengthen the regulation. And again, I can say that EU is the key to this. And I also would like to state that I'm not the only politician from the Danish parliament here today. I have a very good colleague sitting down there, Claus Jørgensen, and actually has a lot of knowledge about this because he has been working for Tænk for many years. And actually, he should have been the one standing up here instead of me, but I'm sure both of us are grateful to get the opportunity to stand here because at least it gets on top of our minds that we have to do something and we can together, we can make more awareness in the Danish parliament about the problem. Also, we must demand transparency. All consumers, of course, they have the right to know. And again, it's easy to say, but how do we do this in practice? But we also, as you have stated, we must support independent research. And it was also interesting to hear some of you mention that now we make it cheaper to have, help if you can't get children of your own, but the amount that is invested in research to actually avoid this, great danger to fertility in the future is not taken seriously enough. So it's not okay to put some millions into fertility treatment. We need to put it into research. And also, we must, from the Danish side, lead international cooperation. And we know we can do it. Even though we're a little slow, we have regulated asbestos, we have regulated lead. So of course, we can do it again. We have the knowledge, we have the tools, and we do have the responsibility. And I'm sure that future generation will judge us by what we do right now. I think we should agree not to give them more to clean up. I think we could agree that we should give them a safer world to grow up in. So I don't think this problem is taken seriously enough, even though you would find, well, every politicians, that's actually a hard, difficult word to say for someone who's used to speaking Danish, but I'm sure that all of us will agree that it should be taken seriously, but sometimes we just don't know how to grab the problem. So a plea to you is that when you have specific suggestions, please give it to us. Please let us know what we can do, because you should make it as easy for us as possible, because most people want to do something, but they don't always know exactly what to do other than standing up here and saying, well, it's a big problem, someone should do something, and then I go home afterwards and, keep buying the same clothes that I already did. So please be very specific. So it's something we have to do together. And some of you are very much into the regulations. So please let us know where it should be changed. And what we can do is keep setting focus on the subject and keep fighting for the politicians to do something and much more than they do today. So again, I sincerely want to thank the organizers of this Congress to putting spotlight on these very critical issues. So I'll just stop by saying thank you for your attention.